we are here today. We are talking about hiring. We're talking about Google Ads because it's a great topic. And Rena and I got into this discussion about what kind of questions should you ask a Google Ads person? And
Yeah,
because, yeah. So take it over for a second. I'm going to make sure, Rena, introduce yourself.
yeah. Thank you. My name's Rena Little from Littleworks Indie Media, and we run a little agency in Vancouver. But I happen to be in Maple Bay at the moment.
Oh yeah, Maple Bay. And there's a user that asked us specifically to make sure they got tagged in the Facebook Live. So their
Oh,
name is, if I could bring on my, I'll tag them up. They're going to be so disappointed if I don't tag them because I said I would. Give me 1 second. So Rena, you have a lot of Facebook clients or Google Ads clients. You do lots of
I do.
ads, right?
Yes, I do. It's true. And there are a couple of things that clients always come to me with, and it goes in two directions. And this is relevant to Facebook ads too. They'll have tried Google Ads. They may have even tried Google Ads a couple of times. They may have done it themselves. They may have had providers, but it hasn't worked. And so we get this, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for our business stance. And and that just makes me think a lot about it in terms of what should you be asking your provider that you're interviewing to find out and figure out if they're going to be the right fit for you, because the Google ads only work if they are done by somebody who has experience and who has strategy and who understands and can do them. And it's actually a really easy, and maybe not so easy, but it's not that hard to get yourself organized, to go through the program, take a couple of courses, and hang your shingle out and say that you're a Google Ads expert when you're using the Google wizard or the Facebook wizard to set up your campaigns, and or you're using the boost post. So I think that figuring out who you're working with is the first thing and what to ask for. So this is where we're going. And the best example that I have for this, why this is so important, is because I had one client come to me a few years ago, and he had tried Google Ads a couple of times. He had his heart set on social media. He wanted social media management. He thought that was going to be the thing, and I convinced him to take a small Google Ads management package out with us, and I bundled it in with a bunch of other stuff that he was looking for, and he said yes. And we grew his business, online e-commerce business, from 55,000 a month in sales to 125,000 a month in sales in 12 months, which I was actually quite surprised about, with a $500 ad spend, which is not very much, right? It's the minimum we work with, and we never increased that ad spend through the whole 12 months. And he just had somebody on his that he had hired or that helped out that wasn't good, quite frankly.
Mm.
And so you want to watch two things in my mind, and then you can tell me what two things you think. So for me, the two questions to ask for is for some case studies. How long have you been doing it? Do you have any case studies? What have you worked with? And if somebody answers really positively about all of the industries, then they're probably not telling you the truth, because there's some spaces where it's really more difficult. So we don't get the results that I just described in every with every client. And sometimes I have to say to a client, I don't really know how it's going to work for you. I like to work with people for 3 months. I think that's pretty standard across industry, to check out the Google algorithm. That takes Google and your team about that long to get things optimized and running smoothly.
I say
Uh,
4 because it takes a month to set things up.
okay, okay. Oh, yes. No, the month of setup doesn't count. I don't count in that. It's
Okay,
three
yeah, yeah.
months of running the ad. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, so that's, I would agree. And then, and then, and then and so if people tell you, yes, you can get remarkable results, usually they're pulling your leg. It's like the same thing as, we can guarantee you're going to get number one on Google organic. It's actually not, no one can tell you that in
Run.
advance. Like, no one can tell you that in
Run
a
if someone tells you that.
yeah, exactly. So those are indicators. Transparency is another thing I look for, and that's or that I want people to ask, and I usually talk about. And that transparency is about how you're doing the setup, not necessarily the campaigns, but what type of campaigns you're running, what your keywords are, what the ads look like, what the text actually is for your AdWords, what images you're using. Because I had a contractor that was running that I knew that was running, not a contractor that's mine, but I saw a contractor running ads for clients where nothing was approved in advance. The client had no idea what the ad said, what keywords they were targeting, or anything. Like that was just a big mystery. And then in reporting, so in the setups, some people, okay, so the better quality providers will always usually do Tag Manager, which is organized to show the results in Google Analytics, rather than just using the analytics that are in the Google Ads space, because the clicks on your ads doesn't really matter so much. The impressions shouldn't really matter that much. They give you information, but if you don't know how to use that information, it doesn't really matter. So for a client, that shouldn't matter. What should matter are goals, your goals. And usually you have a conversation with your ads person to decide what are your goals, because your goals should really be organized easily to happen on your website. They should also be goals that are congruent with your business goals. And that's a key piece that a lot of providers don't ask you what your business goals are. They'll just decide what you want. And and they're not able to tell you you got this many calls from the ads, you got this many calls that were organic, you got this many calls, you got this many forms filled out through ads. And some of that information isn't particularly helpful, but you need to decide what is the information that's helpful. What are those KPIs, and your provider should walk you through that. Yes, a month to set up, because we have so many clients to set up. So you can usually squeeze it about 2 weeks. We can squeeze it in. I can't hear you, Pip. Are you on mute? I can see your
Yep,
mouth moving.
yep. I got all excited. I'm like, such good questions, Aura. So let's get to those. But I agree. So with the month setup, and yeah, it takes a month because when you're talking to your client, you definitely need a strategy, and you're not just gonna bang up. Also, Google Ads has changed a lot, so the strategy you come up with, you talk to the clients about, you agree, because location is a huge thing,
Yeah,
and depending on how you're gonna set up your campaigns, like you want a strategy you can build upon later. You want, maybe if you're a cyclical business, turn on and off things. Like you'll figure out really quickly if your landing page doesn't work in those 3 months. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Google Ads is a long game. That's the thing. It's not a, like, you can turn them off and turn them on, but it takes about 3 weeks to a month to get the ball rolling. There's bidding strategies you have to use to, anyway, so it takes a long time. Your next question is
Can I
the
just
tagman.
ask?
Oh yeah. Oh
So
no, Rena, no adding.
clarify, just to clarify some of the things that you said, Pip. When you say it takes 3 weeks to get the ball rolling, we're talking not only about the manual things that we actually have to do to your account, but we are also talking about the algorithm that Google uses to figure out who best to serve your ads to. So it's a little bit longer learning than Facebook ads, for example. And and yes, when it comes to strategy, you have to book, like both of us book kickoff sessions where we actually ask all the questions, and then we have to go and do the research, and then there is a process involved. And if they're just it is possible to throw up a campaign and do the research without the client involvement, and a lot of Google Ads people do work like that, but I just find that the
Doesn't
results
make
are
sense.
well, no, it doesn't make
Yeah.
sense either.
You need to work closely with your client because there are things like the negative keywords you want to go through with your client. They're going to know their business way better than you are. So why would you make those assumptions? Also, you should get your ads approved because a second set of eyes can always find issues.
Yeah, That's where
Yeah.
your branding comes in. If no one's got your eyeballs on those ads, then you're letting somebody else organize your branding for you. And your Google Ads person should be asking you for your branding document so that if there's any words in there that you don't want used, so for example, especially in the real estate space, nobody wants to use bubble in their languaging at all. And
Oh, yes.
housing, whatever, it's market bubble, I forgot what the term is, but and there are terms that your clients are going to have that you might not as a provider be aware of, so they should be asking, and all contractors should always be asking every single one of them for your branding
Do you
document.
have a branding guide? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's yeah. And that's really important. It's true. Yeah, Google the questions I think really revolve around types of businesses that I would make sure to ask
Yeah.
for Google Ads. Did you finish your two? I'm getting two things. The top
Yeah.
two things I would say that a business owner or somebody hiring somebody should add would be, what kind of accounts have you worked with before?
Yeah.
And along with that question, so it's still one question, is what accounts do you not work with? What type of businesses do you not work with? And the
Yeah.
reason to ask that is because there's lots of rules in Google Ads, like lots of rules. And if you're an experienced Google Ads person, you will know what type of businesses you don't work with. Because I can tell you right now, I don't work with hotels generally, because I don't work with car dealerships because that's got its own Google Ads. Ticketing, booze, drugs, guns, all of those. We don't work with those. And the reason being is because we've come up again and again, come up against some things. The other thing to know is if somebody wants to try Google Ads for 30 days, we say no. We won't
Yeah.
work with you
No.
because it won't work. And it's the hardest thing as an entrepreneur to say no to money.
Good money. I
But when
know.
you know something's destined for failure,
Yeah.
would you do it?
Before you go on to your second point, because I know you've got a second one still, can we just answer Aura's question about
Yeah,
tag match? Because I think that was a really important
it's a really
question.
good question.
It's Tag Manager is organized on your website to collect the data a little bit differently than Google Analytics, and it funnels the information into it, not funnels. It helps you segment the information better in Google Analytics, and that's why you want to use it. So we use Tag Manager to set up for Google Ads and for Facebook ads and for LinkedIn ads, and then everything is segmented beautifully in Analytics. And
Yeah,
that's how it works. And then you can pull really nice reports from analytics that shows you everything so that you're actually looking at what happened on your site. So if Google Ads tells you and Facebook Ads tells you that you had this number of clicks to your website, you want to actually see, did those clicks actually follow through, or were they just like clicks and then
yeah,
flybys, right? So sometimes people click and then they just move on. So you want to see what are the numbers of people that actually landed on your page? How long did they stay on your page? What actions did they take on your page? Those are the good, solid pieces of information because with that information, you can actually do some really beautiful organizing of your landing page. And that's the next thing. Does your Google person optimize your landing page within your campaign management? Do they do that?
that's a good question. Because
If they don't do it, does somebody do it? Somebody needs to do
who's
that.
gonna do it? Yeah,
Yeah.
and we've come across that because we used to not do
Yes.
it.
That's
But the
huge.
thing is, then you have to depend on the client,
That's
um,
right.
and which is a challenge, right? And so we'll use lead pages. The other thing is, so the landing page concept, when nobody can see anything else, so they're not distracted by next thing they're going to check out, like a blog or something. So you do potentially want to treat it like Facebook ads. They go to a specific landing page, and that landing page might not be indexed on your website. To go back to Aura's question, the tag manager, we do the same thing now. We do a measure setup, and then at the very end of our measure setup, if people are doing Google ads, then we add the conversion tracking there, and we connect the Google Ads and Analytics account on both sides. So from Google
Mhm.
Ads to Analytics, then from Analytics to Google Ads. It's like a double connector. And that helps us. You can make audience lists. You could do all these really cool things, but you can then see the pattern that people like, oh, I got this much from ads, this much for organic, because Google Ads will not report as well anymore because they've taken away the
Yeah.
attribution model that used to be. Now it's their data driven attribution. So you have to use Google Analytics to see the real results. We've actually, so my next point of what to ask if
Yes.
you're hiring a Google Ads person would be, so my first one was, what accounts do you work on? And because you want to know if they're e-commerce, that's their specialty, right? Or if they're lead based, like if I want a form filled out. And then the reporting, how do you report? Or better than that, who owns the account? I
Oh
think
yeah, that's
that's,
good too.
and that goes with the transparency, because a lot of, if you search, you'll see, have you ever seen Search Kings? So they advertise for the States and Canada, and they have big pockets to do Google Ads advertising because it can cost some industries a lot of money. So you want to ask them, they own the account though. So here's the thing, if you have a Google account with someone else and you're like, I don't want to do it anymore, and they own it, you have to wait for them to close that account before you can open another account and wait like 30 days.
Yeah. Yeah, we argue about this a lot because here's the thing, camp we never start with somebody else's account anyways. We always start with a fresh account because the
Really?
setup is different. Everybody has a slightly different approach to setup. And so working on somebody's account that has been running for ages can sometimes be messy. So we always start with a fresh one. It also gives an ads credit, generally speaking. So we like to do that. And but we will, if people want to own their account, we have that discussion at the beginning. I usually suggest that most agencies like to start fresh anyways, so it's not no point. But
Oh,
the reason is because I asked my guy this because I was trying to figure out why. Because everything else we usually give over really easily, but with the ads account, generally speaking, what ends up happening is we try and close it out, and the client never comes in and accesses it properly, and because there's there's a step that they need to do that never happens, and then it just leaves this empty account that's problematic.
interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and then so sorry, did you
We're
want to say?
different. We're different. So
Oh,
we want
yeah.
clients to own the account. We want to take them into their account. We want to teach them about Google Ads. But Rena and I do this differently. You can really screw up a Google Ads account if you go
Yeah.
in and you're touching things or moving things, or you really want to, but you can just give you access or just ask the client not to touch anything. It is, I think it is theirs. So sure, screw it up. Pay me to fix it.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. Our clients definitely see everything. We give them view access for sure. And we also coordinate with the rest of their team if they have other contractors that need to do something. Steven has a really good question there. I think, Pip, this is one for you because I don't really know the 7 day.
Yeah. Do you think the data attribution is better than the 7 day that they had before? Which
Mm.
one do you feel has generated better results? I We used to use linear, so they had different models. They had first click, last click, and then they had linear, and then they had decay. Oh my god, I can't believe I remember all of them. Time decay, and it's just what they measure. And we always picked linear, which but now they took away all of that, and now you get to do the data driven. So 7 days, the attribution was in the 7 day one. So I don't remember 7 day attribution model because we always picked linear. I don't, I like control. I like having a little, and so it's funny, every time they take away some control, you can see Google, the Google company makes more money. So they want to be like Facebook. They want to be like, no, you get nothing and just give us money. So I think
Uh,
that's funny. Good question.
and oh, what was I thinking? There was something else that came up about service providers and what they do. We were talking about, okay,
Oh,
I'm
you
going to
want me
have
to
to,
go? I got so many.
I forgot what I was going to
Okay.
say.
So I would also ask, how do you strategize to get
Right.
the
Yeah.
best campaign? Because the secret of secrets to Google Ads is the foundation matters.
Yeah.
what you do when, and maybe this is why you start a new account each time. I'll pull all the data I can get off their old accounts, or like if, you know, it hasn't worked, or if you see their account and it hasn't worked at all, then it is
Yeah.
smarter to set up a new account, because you can get that $600, that whatever they have 30, you get 1800
Yeah.
now if you spend 36.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need a lot
Oh,
of money.
yes, I do remember. So the other thing that you want to do, make sure you're doing, and this was really tragic. I have an older client, like elderly client
Oh,
that I love to work with, and so somebody did a sales call with him and he got connected. Apparently he signed a contract, although nobody's been able to produce that contract. And and he signed up for a $3,000 package on Google Ads, and they accessed the Google ad account from his Google Workspace. So there was like a connection between, so what ended up from his account, sorry, not Google Workspace. So what happened was he was he gave them his login to his Google Ads account, and then they
went
added
in.
themselves and removed him from the account. And so what happened was he got this whole a whole bunch of charges, and he tried to contest it with his bank because he didn't remember signing up, but he's elderly, so it's actually possible that he didn't remember. But there was also no contract produced by the company or in his inbox in Google, and they they just kept running ads like he is now hooped. And the bank didn't, his credit card did not back him up, so
Mm-mm.
he's been he has to pay. So make sure that you're not giving your login to a producer. If anything, if you need technical help, what we generally do, and I think Pip does the same, is you walk people through on a Zoom call and show them how to add you to their account,
Yep.
or you set up the account and add the client to the account. And those are the two ways that should really be happening. Anything else is a compromise, especially if you use the same passwords or similar passwords between your accounts. It can get really scary. And this is what happened. These guys got into his Google Workspace and then deleted all of the emails between the two companies. So he had no proof of a contract, what was said, what was promised, or anything. And it was a mess for me to clean up, an absolute and just heartbreaking.
You definitely want to, yeah, because we had a client who had an experience where somebody got a hold of his credit card and used his credit card for Google Ads. Now there are bad players that
Mhm.
will try to take over an account and direct them, because spend your money and direct them to their site. So you do want to be careful. If you want to ask things like, how many accounts do you manage, and what is your, like, so when we talk about logging in, really important, you can lock down your account by having it only the URLs that you want able to get into the account. That's a security
Oh,
feature. Yeah, you can. So when we add our MCC account, and then we show the owner how to,
EC stand for?
oh, it's a management account. It's one account to rule them all, you know what I mean? And I'm sure there's a limitation, but it's so you can go in and you can see all the data together, so you're not like logging in, logging out. So any professional Google Ads person should have an MCC account. So
Yeah.
that's one of those sneaky questions. And if you ask these type of questions,
Yeah.
then
You're like,
the person will know that stuff. And so then there's no messing around. Google Ads can be a game changer for some businesses. I say can. It is a game changer for some businesses. It is colder traffic than a referral, but it is still they're intentionally looking for the service, so that's really great.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
MCC account. So what are our four questions so far? What experience do you have? I don't know. There were so many good ones.
I can't believe you were going to recap that because I can't remember.
I
I'm
can't.
going to
I'll recap it.
I'll watch the replay.
And then, like, how do you structure an account? If
Right.
that's what you want to ask. How do you approach reporting?
Yes, current experience.
Explain your process for building and managing. So that's where you want to hear things like, yeah, we'd like to meet you every week or every month. We're in the account at least 3 times a week. When we launch, we don't launch on Fridays because if anything goes awry, who's paying attention, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
Those are the
Yeah.
kind of answers you want to hear, right? And then another good question is, what tools do you use to help optimize your campaign?
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
they lay some cool tools you can look up that you won't understand at all, yeah, there's some great ones out there that we use to help us because we use machines, we use people, we use our brains, all of that. Any other things you would ask, Rena, if you were hiring a
Yes.
Google Ads person?
Yeah, the one thing that I like to do, which I'm not sure if you guys do, but I like to utilize a system of working with Facebook ads and Google ads so that they work together. And so that to me is my sort of my superpower. That's how I feel like I get a lot of really good results, but doesn't always work for everybody. But you want to find out, are they working in a silo or are they actually integrated with the rest of your rest?
So can they work with a team? Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
because that's the other thing. When trying to access, if you're working with a team, are you going to be able to get easy access to the analytics? I had this issue just last week where I'm asking for admin access on the analytics and I'm not getting it.
you're
It's
begging.
very frustrating because some people get really territorial and competitive, and unfortunately, that's not helpful.
It is.
And having a collaborative mindset is way better.
It's hold on, Mona. I'm trying to get rid of this so I can put up your beautiful picture. How you doing? Um, it's so true what you
Yeah,
said. Uh,
and that's why we get along.
it we do get along. All right.
Slightly competitive, but on the whole,
I'm like, you do Google Ads wrong, Rena. No, we work really well
yeah, see
together,
that?
only with access. But I like what you do. I like
Yeah,
the client centered approach of the trying to get them that free $600 or whatever when you sign up. So that's a good one. Keep your eye out for that. There's like the integration. I think that is a huge, maybe the final point we're going to come up with today because that integration of working
yeah,
with other people, like I've been locked out of a website by the web dev of some companies because he doesn't like me. I'm
yeah.
like, so that's not about the client though. And so that's bad, you
It's
know?
unhelpful. It's very unhelpful. And nobody wins with that
Oh no,
type
they
of
think they win. They think they win, and they think they'll have the client, but eventually they'll learn.
client doesn't win with that attitude is the
No,
problem. We need to make sure that the clients come first. That's the most important thing. Despite if
yeah.
your feelings don't matter about the other people. It's
Well,
it's
and
hard.
the great thing about Google Ads is if you do them well, most of the time people stay with you. Some people leave because they get poached or this or that. But so maybe asking like how long is your longest client in Google Ads? Because then that it's
Oh,
been successful.
I would like to also point out one thing because I think this is the misunderstanding that I get a lot is that once you get your ads optimized to a point, your conversions are going to pretty much stay similar
Two
until
weeks
you
and then
well,
goes.
you gotta scale. Yeah, that's true. If no one's paying attention to the count, but if you've got a professional who's paying attention to the count, it should stay fairly similar over time because you're paying for that number of ads. So if you want more, it's not going to go continually go up like that. And that a lot of people have that expectation. But if you want to get more conversions, you need to scale your ad spend. That's the best way to increase your conversions or your phone calls or whatever it is that you're looking to have.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Actually, do you know, just a slight side story, but the other day I had a phone call from a potential client. And at the end of the call, and it was somebody I already talked to, but at the end of the call, he's, should I call you back at this number? And he spouted off some weird number. And I was like, no. And I'm like, I'll give you my number. But it's because Google Ads, if you do the phone call, it'll replace your number, right, with a trackable number. So I'm gonna have a conversion for my ad because I answered the phone.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
Right?
Yes.
So the other thing to note before we go, and I know this is like something to drop last minute, but if you're here, then you get to hear this, which is that huge Google leak that
Oh,
happened.
right.
They're saying, some people are saying that if you do, it's smarter to do a little tiny campaign for yourself because it affects your SEO. But hey man, I just
Oh,
work here. I don't know the little black box, but I do know that I think you do better if you have a brand campaign going.
okay. Good tip. Right.
With that, we are out of time. Not out of touch, just out of time. Next week, oh, guess what next week is?
It's the what's happened in the last month.
Of
What's it?
marketing. Woo!
Yes.
So every third Thursday, fourth Thursday, fourth, because that's the 25th,
Yeah,
every
fourth.
fourth Thursday in our group, we do a recap on all the crazy stuff that's happened in the last month in search, social, and websites. So you will see the whole gang here, me, Rena, Greg, and what's that guy's name? Phelan. So we will see you next week. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful, happy, summery day. Bye.
Hi.